What is wind shear? Before we dive into how tornadoes form, it's essential to understand what wind shear actually is. In simple terms, wind shear means a change in wind speed or direction with height in the atmosphere. For example, the wind near the ground might be blowing at 10 miles per hour to the north, while a few thousand feet up, it's blowing 50 miles per hour to the west. That difference creates a horizontal rolling motion in the air, an invisible cylinder of rotating wind. This change in speed and direction may not sound dramatic, but in severe storms, wind shear acts as the foundation for the powerful rotation that eventually becomes a tornado. Without wind shear, even the strongest thunderstorms would struggle to produce the kind of rotation needed for tornado formation. The two types of wind shear meteorologists usually talk about two main kinds of wind shear: speed shear and directional shear. Speed shear occurs when wind speed increases with height. For example, near the ground, the air may move slowly, but higher up, it moves much faster. This creates a substantial difference in motion between layers of air. Directional shear, on the other hand, happens when the wind changes direction as you go up. At the surface, winds might blow from the south, but higher up, they might shift and blow from the west. When both kinds of shear happen together, they create the twisting environment that helps a thunderstorm begin to rotate. This rotation is the first key step in the birth of a tornado, the birth of rotation in the atmosphere. Imagine layers of air moving at different speeds and directions. This creates a horizontal roll of air, much like a log spinning on water. Now, when a strong thunderstorm develops, it has powerful updrafts, rising columns of warm, moist air that feed the storm. As the updraft lifts this rolling column of air, it tilts it vertically. What was once horizontal rotation becomes vertical rotation, and this is how mesocyclones are born. A mesocyclone is a large, rotating updraft inside a supercell thunderstorm, and it's often the parent of tornadoes. Wind shear is the critical ingredient that makes this tilt and rotation possible. Without it, updrafts rise straight up and down, and the storm remains ordinary. With strong shear, the storm begins to spin. Why? Supercells depend on wind shear. Supercells are the most powerful and organized type of thunderstorm, and nearly all violent tornadoes come from them. These storms maintain their structure thanks to wind shear. Here's how. As the updraft lifts air into the storm, wind shear helps separate the updraft from the downdraft, the area where cool air sinks back down. This separation prevents the storm from collapsing on itself and allows it to stay strong for hours. Wind shear turns a thunderstorm into a self-sustaining engine with rotation at its core. The more intense the shear, the greater the storm's ability to produce a mesocyclone, and the higher the potential for a tornado. The role of wind shear in tornadogenesis. Once a mesocyclone forms, the next step is tornadogenesis, the process that creates the actual tornado. Within the rotating updraft, areas of high and low pressure start to develop. Wind shear enhances these differences, stretching and tightening the rotation near the ground. This tightening is like a figure skater pulling in their arms during a spin. They rotate faster. In a storm, this process causes the lower part of the mesocyclone to intensify until a funnel cloud forms and touches the ground. In essence, wind shear supplies the storm with the rotational energy, while instability from warm, moist air provides the fuel. The combination of both is what gives tornadoes their explosive power. How wind shear creates different tornado types. Not all tornadoes are the same, and wind shear helps explain why. When wind shear is weak or shallow, the resulting tornadoes tend to be brief and less intense, often forming from non-supercell storms or squall lines. But when wind shear is strong and deep, meaning it extends through a large portion of the atmosphere, the storm's rotation is more organized and sustained. These conditions often produce long-track, violent tornadoes capable of EF4 or EF5 damage. So, when meteorologists talk about tornado potential, they're really talking about how much wind shear exists and how well it aligns with instability and moisture in the atmosphere. Vertical wind shear, the tornado engine. Vertical wind shear, where wind speed increases with height, is especially crucial because it helps generate the storm's helicity. Helicity is a measure of how much the air is spinning and twisting vertically. The higher the helicity, the greater the storm's ability to produce a rotating updraft and, ultimately, a tornado. Think of it as the fuel efficiency of a storm's engine. Even if there's plenty of warm air, energy, without the right shear, the storm can't convert it into organized rotation. That's why meteorologists closely watch helicity values when forecasting tornado outbreaks, directional wind shear, and tornado orientation. Directional shear doesn't just influence whether a tornado forms, it also affects how it moves and what shape it takes. When surface winds blow from the south and upper-level winds blow from the west, the tornado is often steered northeastward, following the main storm path. The interaction of these wind directions can also tilt the tornado's funnel, giving it that classic slanted look often seen in photos and videos. In extreme cases, sharp directional shear can make the tornado's motion erratic, causing sudden turns or loops. This is why storm chasers often rely on real-time wind data to predict where a tornado might go next. It's all about understanding the shear. The dangers of too much or too little shear. Interestingly, while tornadoes need strong wind shear, too much shear can actually disrupt a storm. If the upper-level winds are so strong that they blow the top of the storm away from the base, the updraft can't stay connected, and the tornado weakens or fails to form. On the other hand, too little shear means there's not enough rotation to build a mesocyclone in the first place. The sweet spot is moderate to strong shear that extends through several layers of the atmosphere. Enough to organize the storm, but not enough to tear it apart. This balance is one reason why tornado forecasting is still so challenging, even with advanced radar systems. Measuring wind shear in the real world. Meteorologists use tools like Doppler radar, weather balloons, and computer models to measure wind shear. Doppler radar, in particular, can detect rotation within storms by measuring changes in wind speed and direction inside the storm's structure. By analyzing radar velocity data, meteorologists can pinpoint regions of strong shear, which often appear as couplets of red and green on radar, indicating winds moving toward and away from the radar. These signatures are key indicators of possible tornado formation. Weather balloons provide vertical profiles of the atmosphere, showing how wind speed and direction change with height, giving forecasters a snapshot of shear levels before storms even form. Famous tornadoes and the role of shear. Many of history's most devastating tornadoes occurred under conditions of extreme wind shear. The Moore, Oklahoma tornado of 2013, the Joplin, Missouri tornado of 2011, and the Tuscaloosa, Birmingham tornado of 2011 all formed in environments where wind shear was powerful and well aligned with moisture and instability. In these cases, the combination of intense directional and speed shear produced supercells capable of maintaining rotation for hours, resulting in massive, long-track tornadoes with catastrophic damage. How climate change might influence wind shear. Scientists are still studying how climate change affects wind shear. Some models suggest that while instability may increase due to warmer, moister air, overall wind shear in some regions could decrease. This could mean fewer tornadoes, but more extreme ones when conditions do align. It's also possible that tornado outbreaks may shift geographically, with regions outside traditional tornado alley, like the southeast US, seeing more frequent events. Understanding how wind shear patterns evolve will be key to forecasting these changes in the coming decades.